And a good Tuesday morning, Eagle fans. Camp continues, but with a couple of new participants today that we're going to talk about here on Birds 365 over the next 2 hours. You got Mac and Mac for now. McMullen and McDonald here to hang with you, but Johnny Mac's got to exit stage left and head over to the NovaCare complex where the Eagles will be going full practice today. This is the walkthrough, right, John? They're going full.
Oh no, this is not if it's a walkthrough, we're not in.
Oh,
there,
you're not
so
there. You're sticking around me.
Yeah.
I forgot. Right. My bad.
So it's either green or yellow. So my guess is it's they're trying to replicate a normal game week. So my guess is this going to be a green practice, like a Wednesday on a normal game week. But we'll see. They're hinky these days. So, this practice wasn't originally on the schedule. Remember, when the official training camp, they added this schedule. They added this practice to the schedule. And they, with the thought process of replicating a game week. So,
yeah. Did they reschedule that Raven Eagle game, or is it being played when it was scheduled like 6 months ago?
They did not. So yeah,
Right.
it's and I know a lot of people.
So this just throwing down them that they'd like to have a week where they're scheduling it like what would be a regular season week, even though they've known this game was coming for months.
I wish I could tell you, but yeah, a lot of people have said to me, well, maybe they think they're not getting enough work done.
No, thank you for asking my next question before I even asked it for me. Do you at least give that some credence that, yeah, they haven't quite accomplished what they wanted to accomplish at this time, and said, we better take that day off we were planning and actually use it?
No, I don't. Here's why. What is an extra hour and 10 minutes, maybe hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes? What is that going to do in the big picture in August? I mean, if you're saying you're not getting enough work in, you're going to add more than one random practice. As far as, I am a little.
Whoa, time out, Philadelphia. I'm going to play John McMullen here. You can only do so much. The collective bargaining agreement doesn't allow you to do so much. What is one random practice? Well, what it means is plenty. But when you don't have all that much time to prepare for a season to begin with because you've collectively bargained it all away, I'm not going to say this is a throwaway.
But I'm not going to say it's a throwaway. Anytime you're practicing, it's better than when you're not practicing. But, the CBA is what it is. Yeah, you're limited, but you can also use as much time as humanly possible, like Andy Reid, somebody like that. Or you can do it the way the Eagles have done it. Adding one practice to what the Eagles do is not what Andy does, taking all available time. Like, if you want to take all available time, take all available time. That makes sense to me. Adding one rando practice is, and the explanation was that was given to me, made sense why they're doing it. So I believe them. I don't always believe them. Like when they talk about, like when Nick Sirianni talks about liking his linebacker room. Well, no, you're lying to me. Yeah, you don't like your
linebacker room.
Yeah.
Prior to them going out and picking up two guys off the scrap heap.
So it's not like I'm deferring to them. I think it makes sense. They're not, 90 minutes of extra work on a Tuesday. What are we, Tuesday? It's training camp. I never know what day it is. On a Tuesday August 8th. I mean, no, I don't think that's gonna the crux of. Oh, we got to get better on Tuesday, August 8th. We haven't gotten I don't think that's the crux of it.
All right, maybe you said, and it went right over my head. Their explanation was what that you're buying into, other than they actually could use a little more practice time.
They want to replicate a game week from a preparation standpoint. Right. It's probably got more to do with the coaching staff than anything else, than the players, because obviously the starters aren't going to play. They're trying to replicate a game week from a preparation. Remember, they have two new coordinators. So, that's a big deal.
Okay.
That's been
So,
underplayed by a lot of people, but that's a big deal. And I think if you're asking me about the game, also, I think the biggest deal about the game is the communication aspect between the new coordinators and the rest of the staff more than anything that happens on the field. So I think it's got more to do with the coaching staff replicating that game week than anything else.
okay. So we've gone completely in a circle. I'm going to try this one more time. The preseason game against the Ravens was scheduled for Saturday, August 13th, 6 months ago, somewhere thereabouts. So it just dawned on the organization this week, hey, we haven't really had a full week of practice leading up to a game. They just figured that out this week when it was in place 6 months ago. That's where I'm getting a little fuzzy on this, John, that we need to get a full week of practice. Well, you knew that 6 months ago. Why was the schedule
Well,
changed
I've
week of?
criticized this team for the schedule. Remember when the training camp schedule came out, how late compared to some other teams. I wondered for a while why this team is so non-Andy Reidish when it like I always joke about Andy. If you ask Andy what his schedule is going to be in 2027 because he's got the CBA, it's not going to change. He knows what his schedule is going to be. Now, it's interesting because Sean Desai said the other day they had the training camp schedule back in April. Well, they didn't let us into it until 3 days before training camp started.
Right.
Now, they got a framework and they know how they want to work. And basically, they don't want to do a lot of back-to-backs. They want to, they want to have to walk. So, yeah, fly by the seat of the pants. And somebody woke up one day, Nick woke up one day and said, hey, I better do this. I don't think he puts as much, and this is just not reporting. This is just my speculation.
Right.
I don't think he puts as much emphasis on the schedule as somebody like Andy. That's it. I think it's pretty simple.
The schedule has changed, as has the linebacker room, despite the fact that Nick Sirianni said when the two newest Eagles got signed the other day that he was pleased with the linebacker room. If I were certain Eagle linebackers, I'd be wiping my brow going, yeah, but the coach says he's pleased. And not really when you go out and you pick up two guys off the street and give them $5 million between the two of them. And again, still no details on how the 2 1 year up to $2.5 million contracts are broken out. You haven't seen or heard anything in addition to that,
other than the $2.5 million I haven't seen, but I'm pretty confident it's 500, but we'll see. That'll get confirmed probably by the end of the week. And
500,000 as in guaranteed.
Yes,
Is that what
500 guaranteed is my guess, and it's going to be very, very close to that. If maybe a little bit more than less, but I think it's going to be in that range. But we'll see when it gets actually filed. And but yeah, they're going to have some guaranteed money, so they're going to beat Nicholas Morrow.
If Nick Sirianni is pleased with the linebacker room prior to Jack and Zach coming in, does he move to ecstatic today since he was already pleased and they've added 2 new players? We'll see if they've got anything left in the tank once they hit the practice field today. He's got to be just stone cold ecstatic about the linebacker position. Yeah, it doesn't bode well for a guy like Nick Morrow, who came in on a non-guaranteed contract completely during the offseason.
Well, I'll say this about Nick Morrow. Yeah, I think he's an average player, to be kind, below average starter in the NFL. But I don't think there's any guarantee. We haven't seen Zach Cunningham or Miles Jack yet. We'll get to see them today. They were there on the open practice, but they didn't, just stand in there. We'll get to see him at practice for the first time today. It's conceivable they have nothing left. I go back to 2016, Jim Schwartz's first year, Doug's first year. if you remember, he brought in Stephen Tulloch, who he had a long history with at Tennessee and Detroit. Really good player at the height of his career. He had nothing left. I mean, nothing. And we were sitting there, well, Tulloch's here with sports. He's going to be a big part of it. Nothing. He had nothing left. So, again, Zach specifically, I think, has been a really solid player. Miles has been a real NFL player. It's conceivable they have nothing left. But, I still say if that's the case, because they're on the street August 5th or whatever it was, August 6th. That tells you a lot. The contract tells you a lot. But even in that scenario, I think then they try again, some other route, whether it be a trade or signing or something like that. Nick Sirianni's not happy with the linebacker room. Howie Roseman's probably more unhappy with the linebacker room. Howie knows there's an issue. Hopefully this fixes it, but there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee it fixes it.
I'll give you, to help make your point, a couple other guys that you never know when the tank is just going to run dry. Ryan Kerrigan. I thought when they signed Ryan Kerrigan a couple of years ago, I said, wow, if he's anywhere near what he used to be, to get him for the price in the mix or whatever. No, he was done. And the Eagles basically carried him all year long.
Last year. Yeah.
Even though
look at Robert Quinn.
That's where I was going next. Yeah. God, McMullen, you and I are on the same page this year. That's okay.
19 and a half sacks, and a year and a half later, he's done. He's shot.
Exactly. And by the way, and we want to get to this. They revealed the top 10 on the NFL.com player voting, top 100 players in the NFL. We knew Jalen Hurts was going to be up there, just didn't know exactly where. Number 3. Mahomes number 1, Jefferson number 2, Jalen Hurts number 3, ahead of Joe Burrow, ahead of Josh Allen.
Can't go disrespect today, Eagles fans.
Yeah, you got to put that card in your back pocket. Eagle disrespect? I don't think so. Number 3 in the whole league. That's pretty damn impressive. And last year, Robert Quinn was like number 42. Coming into the season, the 42nd best player in the National Football League coming into last year, because the year before he had 18 and a half sacks. So when the players do this, and I know you've referenced this before because you're in the locker room there, when they hand out the sheets for the Pro Bowl voting, and some players finish their voting in 45 seconds, 90 seconds, maybe. Give me a pen.
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit more than that, because they usually write down about 10 names. But let's see, we're almost 15 minutes into the show. They ain't taking this segment long to think about it. So
no, not even.
That's how I'll describe it.
So I think you can go back and look at the list that ended up being revealed all the way to number 1 last night and come up with the determination that, they're kind of slaves to the moment. Who was great the last time somebody was on the field, and that's Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. Yeah, we're going to move them up significantly, going from completely unranked in the top 100 to number 3.
What I love about all these lists, all of them, like I put the same at my list, your list, NFL Network's list, players list, media's list, PFF's list, all of them I put in the same category, because there's so many lists. You can like them, you can dislike them. If you dislike them, go on to the next one. Me, I never get upset. I never get fired up, but I love it. I love it when somebody finishes well, like Jalen. It's the greatest list in the world. And when somebody finishes poorly, same list, Hassan Reddick, they'll say, well, Hassan Reddick outplayed Nick Bosa. I think Nick was 4th.
Yep.
Well, Hassan Reddick outplayed Nick. You can't have it both ways. All right. You like the list. You don't like the list. I guess you can have it both ways if you're a hypocrite. But,
right. You just don't care.
Yeah.
It's all Eagles all the time. It doesn't matter. They're not even trying to be diplomatic about it. All right, JM, I do want to get this in with you, because when I saw this, I said, man, Johnny Mac can't be happy about this. with the dearth of linebackers for the Eagles over the last couple of days. Davion Taylor giving his walking papers, new guys in, got to stand on the sidelines the other night at practice, but didn't actually participate. Nakobe Dean injured or hurt, or call it what you want, but hopefully not badly. And you think there's any chance he's out there practice today?
Good question. They had a day off, so maybe they ramp him back up. But again, if he's not 100%, they're gonna go on without him. I mean, they're not gonna push him out there if he's not 100% on August 8th. So, if he's healthy, he'll be out there. If he's still feeling a little bit, they will err on the side of caution. No question about it.
And that was one thing that Sirianni said. And again, sometimes you have to try and judge not only what Nick says, but the way that he says it as to how much plausibility you actually have to put into the stance. You and I both raised the question mark flag when he said he was pleased with the linebacker room. As you're cutting guys before the first preseason game, and you're adding guys that were on the street all off season before. Oh, but we're pleased with the linebacker. Yeah, sorry, I'm throwing a BS flag on that one too. But I did believe when he said the two signings mean nothing, should read nothing into their confidence in Nakobe Dean. Now, they could be proven wrong, but I believe that they believe that he's their middle linebacker and he's going to play every snap the same way that Edwards, almost every snap the same way that Edwards did last year. I do believe that. We'll find out over time once it actually starts to count in games that will be in the standings for the regular season, whether Nick was a little overly optimistic or not. You know me, Mr. Nakobe Dean, president of his fan club. So I'm hoping that the coach has got the right read on it. He's watching a film of him after practice every single day, and I hope they do really like what they're seeing. But they had a major dearth of linebackers at the open practice on Sunday night, and they actually did some, not many, but some drills with their second first-round draft pick playing the outside linebacker position. And again, you and I talk about this all the time on the air. What is an outside linebacker? What isn't an outside linebacker? What is an off-ball linebacker? What isn't an off-ball linebacker? What is an edge player as compared to what everyone always thought of as defensive lineups? 3 linebackers, 4 defensive linemen. Eagles actually play 5. But do you think there's any chance that they actually do try to use Nolan Smith as an outside linebacker, off-ball linebacker, call it what you want, rather than an edge player? Or do you think that was just because they didn't have enough live bodies? Did you not tell me Sean Bradley was out there with the ones the other night? Because
Ben Van Sumeren got a couple first team reps and was actually calling the defense. He was the green dot for a couple reps. So yeah, that's why, if you want to know why Zach and Miles are here, maybe that's the best explanation of all. No, they're not going to play him at off-ball linebacker, other than desperation. I always say, when you get down to 53 in Avonte Maddox, I go back to his rookie season. Look, nobody wanted to play Avonte Maddox at safety. They had to, because they had a bunch of injuries. So in that type of situation, when you're down to 53, could he play a game or two at off-ball linebacker because they have to? Yeah, but only in that type of situation. They know what he is, and he's got great potential as an edge rusher. That's what they scouted him for. They're not going to play him at off-ball linebacker. That's one of the reasons, again, Zach, that's another reason. There's a lot of reasons why Zach Cunningham and Miles Jack are here, because they don't want to play him at off-ball linebacker. And he's not an off-ball linebacker, but he does have the athleticism. Yeah, you know me, Jody. Labeling is a big problem with the NFL.
You and I both.
And especially when it comes to, from the player perspective, it's a big problem for contracts, to be honest. But from a fan perspective, it's a problem from an education perspective. Because you see linebacker, like if you pick up an Eagles roster, I got one right here, Jody.
As provided to you by who?
The Eagles PR department.
Gotcha.
Nolan Smith, Hassan Reddick, Patrick Johnson, Kyron Johnson are all listed at linebacker in the same grouping with Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow and Sean Bradley and Ben Van Sumeren. So I get why fans are, and a lot of fans are educated and they understand the difference, but I get why some fans don't understand the difference. The difference is best described by where they are in the meetings. The Nolan Smiths and the Hassan Reddicks of the world are in with Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham because they're edge players, and they're with Jeremiah Washburn. The off-ball linebackers are with DJ Elliott, the off-ball linebacker coach. That's a better indication of how the Eagles view the player. Why they still do this, I don't know. I don't know. It drives me insane.
I know it does. That's why I had to bring it up today. And the Eagles are going to do what the Eagles are going to do. And like you said, you're given that depth chart by the Philadelphia Eagles, so they're going to do whatever they want to do. I use our lads. Their depth chart to me, because they're not affiliated with any one team. The Eagles are giving you the only information they want you to have. Our lads is an independent source. And they, too, list Hassan Reddick as a linebacker. No, he's not. That's why Hassan Reddick has become Hassan Reddick, because the team this year.
Well, again, see, to me, he's a Sam linebacker. He's a strong side linebacker by labeling definition. All right. But that, to me, when you're doing a depth chart, is not important. Where does he play? Jonathan Gannon would call it an overhang player.
Mm-hmm.
He plays like an edge. That's why I think everybody should use the term edge player. Now, Josh Sweat's more of a traditional defensive end with his hand in the ground. So he is a Sam linebacker. Nolan Smith is a Sam linebacker. Patrick Johnson, Kyron Johnson, all the undersized guys are basically Sam linebackers, but they're edge players. The off-ball linebackers, the weak side, the Mike, those are the guys off the ball. It's a different position. But they clump it all in as linebacker, and you have this, I don't know any other word to describe it, but lack of education, because they glom it all in. And it's not indicative, and you see it all over, because how many times you hear the term 4-3-3-4? Nakobe Dean was the team's third linebacker last year because TJ Edwards and Kaiser White were healthy for every game. Nakobe Dean played 34 snaps. So what are you worried about 4-3?
Right. It's
versus and then we'll say, well, the 50 front's a 3-4. No, it's not. It's a 5-2.
It's a 5-2. Absolutely right.
If you want to bang your head against the wall and say, well, Reddick's a linebacker and Josh Sweat's playing linebacker, he's playing outside linebacker, go ahead. I mean, I can't force you not to bang your head against the wall, but it's not the case.
All right, Johnny, let me ask you this, because people are going to draw the parallels from last year when the Eagles in season, at least they did it earlier this year before they even got a preseason game under their belt, went out and added 2 veteran guys who weren't on teams, who had better careers between you and I, certainly, and Dominican Sue had, than the 2 linebackers that they signed yesterday. But there's a similarity in that it's later in the offseason additions. We knew that when they made the signings they did last year, although they were, again, both defensive tackles, they were different players that brought different skill sets to the team. Give me a comp between Zach and Jack, between Miles and Cunningham. What type of games do they have? How do you think they're going to be used? Are they actually only competing for one position? Are they competing against each other? how do their games fit what the Eagles need to do at linebacker?
Well, they're both legitimate off-ball linebackers. So, yeah, they're both in here to push Christian Ellis, Nicholas Morrow to play opposite Nakobe Dean. And your hope is the best one wins. I think the Eagles' hope is the best one wins, and both have something left in the tank. And then you do have some durability concerns with Nakobe. Can he play 17 games? And the Eagles really want to play 20. Can he play 20 consecutive games? And it gives you a bit of an insurance policy if he's, got a sprained ankle during the season and he's got to miss a game or two.
So
then
which of those two would you say would be the better middle linebacker? If Nakobe goes down?
No question, middle would be Cunningham from the way they played. Jack would be more the weak side guy, and Jack could probably play a little bit on the edge as well because of his athleticism. But the Eagles have 75 edge rushers, so I don't think that's going to come into play. But yeah, Zach Cunningham to me would be a similar situation if he's got something left in the tank. Think of it like Cam Jurgens. Well, he's the starting weak side linebacker. Cam's the starting right guard. But if the center goes down, Cam's going to play center. Well, if the middle linebacker goes down, then Zach would play middle linebacker. That would be, and again, we haven't even seen him practice once,
right.
But that would be my guess.
I'm asking you to speculate on what they had done formerly before. And one last thought, and then I know you got to run. Again, the other night, we touched on this yesterday, didn't go over it all that much. Marcus Mariota had trouble throwing the football. And he's had trouble throwing the football basically throughout camp. What he's done better than anything else is when need be, pull it down and take off. He's shown that he can still run, even though he's got, this is 8th year or 9th year in the league. He's no spring chicken anymore, but he can still make plays with his legs and almost looks a little like Jalen when he does take off. But his throwing has been a problem. Does it not matter? Is he locked into the backup quarterback? If Jalen goes down, they're going to sink or swim with Marcus Mariota for, if it's 4 games, that's a big chunk of your season. There's no chance that either of the 2 quarterbacks behind him could actually move into the backup slot, could they?
No, those 2 guys aren't ready. No, those 2 guys aren't pushing. Tanner McKee and Bullock aren't even pushing Marcus Mariota. So yeah, it's, you hope he doesn't have to play, but I would say this, and I said it a little bit yesterday, and I'll say it today. The second team offensive line has been bad. It's one of the reasons they're shuffling there a little bit, especially the interior. So, bad snaps. A lot of times he's got that kills a whole play. That kills a rep. A bad snap. They've had so many bad, and it doesn't even have to be a worm burner, or there's been a lot of those, but even if he's got to bend down to corral the snap, it ruins the timing of the rep. So in a theory where he'd have to play, he'd be playing behind this great offensive line. And I think he'd be much better, to be honest. But he's never been an accurate quarterback. I just don't think he's that accurate. You don't want to see him play, but you don't want to see any backup quarterback play. The 49ers being the outlier last year, but that's an outlier. You never want to see, and certainly when you have a quarterback who was just rated the number 3 player in the NFL by his peers, you don't want the backup quarterback playing. Right. So but I think Marcus would be better, a lot better behind, and it makes sense. The best offensive line in football. The offensive line isn't helping him, is how I would say.
Would it not be, at least in part, ironic that if Jalen Hurts, who has become the number 3 player in the National Football League, who was drafted as a backup quarterback, the main reason the Philadelphia Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round when they did was because they wanted someone that they thought they could plug in year 1 as the backup to the often injured Carson Wentz. They prioritize backup quarterbacks as much, if not more so, than any other team in the league. if their season comes apart because they misjudged who to sign as their backup quarterback. Now, your point about, hey, Jody, come on, don't he's playing with all the second team. The whole Eagle offense isn't going to get hurt, and they're going to try and put their whole second team offensive line and everybody else out there to try and win games this year. I get that. That's very accurate and very right. I hope that's the reason why Marcus Mariota has struggled, because, yeah, you never know. You never know what injuries are going to happen, and the fact that the Eagles put a little time and effort into figuring out backup quarterbacks, hopefully they got this one right. And we got a lot of time before the season gets underway, and hopefully is a conversation that's never necessary because Jalen Hurts stays healthy all 17 years. Johnny Mac, safe travels across the bridge. Listen, I won't talk to you till Monday. I need the next 3 days off here from Birds 365. I got to do some WIP morning work. So I will be texting with you over the weekend, but I won't talk to you till Monday. Have a good day over at practice.
You too, Jody. Thanks for filling in. I see Tommy in the green room as well. Hi, Tommy. I won't get to talk to you. That's a disappointment, but he'll do a great job. So I appreciate it, guys. And yeah, I'll see you Monday, Jody.
Tommy Lawler from eaglesblitz.com coming up next with us here on Birds 365. And hopefully a little bit later, if I didn't screw it up, Ricky Ricardo, the voice of the Eagles en Espanol, who I was supposed to send a reminder text to last night. He said he'd come on with us in hour number 2 today. Only I was on the air last night on WIP, so I kind of forgot to send Ricky the text. I'm going to send him a text now. Hopefully he gets it. Hopefully he's up. We know for a fact that Tommy Lawler is coming up next because he's already ready in the green room. Tommy Lawler here with us next on Birds 365.